Okay, Stephanie.
All right, welcome everyone. Just going to screen share here. Okay, there we go. You can see my screen. Looks good. Welcome to our intergenerational community practice session here for October. Today we have the theme of the power of connection. So we're going to go until about 12 o'clock. Our last little bit there is going to be conversation circle. So we'll be answering some questions and we can chat. We will record this session, as Betty mentioned, and we post it after the event on Core Alberta, Core National, and Core BC so that you can watch it if you either want to rewatch something or share it with a colleague, or if you're not here with us today. And this is supported by Healthy Aging Alberta and the Core Alberta and Core National platforms, this community practice. So first, I'd like to acknowledge the land here that we're tuning in from. So in the spirit of our journey to promote reconciliation, we'd like to honor the truth of the shared history and acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We're grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. I am tuning in from Mohkinstsis, the Meeting of the Waters, which is also known as Calgary, and it's on the traditional lands of the Blackfoot Confederacy, including the Kainai, Siksika, and Piikani nations, the Ahinakota, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney nations, and the Tsuut'ina, and it's part of Treaty 7 territories. I'm also tuning in from Métis Region 5 and 6. So I'd like to acknowledge all of those people that have lived and cared for these lands in the area that I'm tuning in from. But I also want to acknowledge that we are currently tuning in from across Turtle Island and the world, since we have somebody tuning in from Rome here. So acknowledging all the different Indigenous lands that we are individually tuning in from. Okay, so just some general housekeeping. You can either keep your video on or off. It's up to you. We are recording it and we will share it. So if you don't want your face shown during, you could keep your video off if you want. You'll be able to unmute yourself at certain times for conversation or questions or whatever. You can also type your thoughts in the chat if you want. Please give your reactions or raise your hand if you want to jump in and you have a comment or question or things like that at some point when we're talking about pieces. And this, as mentioned, the recording will be uploaded to both the Core Alberta platforms and the Core National platforms. We actually have our community of practice in both of those platforms, so we will run it in those spaces after, and we will share the copy of the recording with you. These platforms, Core Alberta, Core National, and Core BC, are provincially and nationally coordinated learning platforms designed to strengthen the sector and increase the organizational and sector capacity through information sharing, training, mentoring, communities of practice, policy development, resource development, collaboration. CORE stands for Collaborative Online Resources in Education. So we have lots of resources there. We have trainings, workshops, community of practice, and we do currently have the 3 different platforms. We're looking to hopefully have some new ones coming on in the next few years, but we currently have the 3. Right now, I represent Healthy Aging Alberta, which is backboned by United Way of Calgary and area, and most of my work is in supporting the Core Alberta platform. But we also have National and BC, Core National and Core BC, which are supported by United Way BC and Help Age Canada. So together, the 3 different organizations here, we host these platforms. You can come on and you could share resources, you can attend events, you could see different funding opportunities. and such. So if you'd like to know more about that, we are hosting a Core 101 event on November 13th, and it's in the Core platform event calendar to register. And you can also message me in the chat if you want the link for that. Okay, I'm passing it to Jane, who's going to introduce our team here.
Yeah, I'd like to start off with Betty Good. She's our illustrious leader, lots of great ideas for intergenerational programming. Stephanie Bansky, you've met. She's our awesome support. Anything we need, she usually can get us straightened out. Rochelle Patil, she is not able to join us, but she's with Nork Innovation Center in Ontario. Diane Druin is a co-founder of Generations from Ottawa, Ontario, and Victoria, BC. Carrie Albert has a lot to share about her intergenerational classroom she's been doing in Saskatoon for quite a while. And our newest joining member is Lily Viagiano. I think I said that right, maybe. And she's with Volunteer Canada. And myself, I'm Jane Atkins from Sundre Senior Spruce Society in Sundre.
Okay, so I don't think we'll need the PowerPoint anymore. Thanks, Stephanie. And I have the absolute pleasure of introducing two people to you. I'm going to introduce them both at the same time, and then Sophie's going to share, and then right after that, Miguel. So these two, Sophie and Miguel, have both been in intergenerational programs that I have run over the last 10 years. They haven't been in my programs for 10 years, but Sophie right now, this is how dedicated she is. She's traveling in Italy and she's logging in from there. And Sophie, you might have to correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not going to say a lot of things about you guys. If there's anything that you want others to know about you, you can share that, okay, when you're speaking. Sophie is an undergraduate. She'll tell you how long she's been in intergenerational programs. And right now she's taking a gap year as she's applying to med programs and or med school. And then Miguel, he's a university student right now. He's the president of the Intergenerational Club at the University of Calgary. He attended it last year, his first year, and he was also in intergenerational programs in high school. And they are going to talk about their journey in intergenerational programs and relationships. And then I've asked them to share how has intergenerational work, like the programs and the relationships, how has that helped shape who they are now? Okay, so after Sophie and Miguel have both spoken, then Deanne is going to facilitate a question and answer period because I'm sure you've got lots of questions for them. So Sophie, take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. Yeah, I'm Sophie. I started with linkages or starting building intergenerational relationships in 10th grade and then continued throughout high school. And then I also was a part of the linkages chapter in university where I was president for about 2 years and also helped with the transition from linkages into good links, which is run by Betty, of course. And that's the chapter that we have at the University of Calgary. And it's been such an amazing experience. Like over the past, I think, 8 years, I've been able to form such long-term relationships with the seniors, especially in the university chapter, because we've been able to go back to the same senior home month after month, and I've been doing it for so long. And it's been so great. I think the reason why I've stuck with it is just seeing the positive impact it had on not only the seniors, but also myself. I think when you first get into intergenerational programs, especially as a student, you think that you're helping them more than yourself. And you think, oh, well, these are people who are usually, socially isolated and you want to provide some social support to them. But what you take away from that is as you leave the events, you're like, wow, I feel so much better too. It's not just about them. It's, it's this mutual relationship, and you really learn so much. And I remember when it was first advertised to us in 10th grade or in high school, it was this idea of challenging generational stereotypes. And I think that's so true. You don't realize, especially at a young age, how easy it is to connect with anybody. And I really found that, like, there was people from probably the ages of like 60 all the way up to high 90s, and we're still able to make conversation and connect about something, and better yet, also learn from each other too. So it really challenged what you think from each other, and it was really fantastic. Some things that I would say that's kind of shaped my perspective is, obviously, I learned the power of connection and just connecting with people in general. So regardless of their age, or if I believe that I have some sort of common ground with them, I learned that it's just so easy to connect with people on like small things. Like, there's people with so many different backgrounds at the retirement homes we work at. And I'm just thinking, like, there's people who've worked in the military, people who immigrated to Canada, just such a variety of people. And I've always been able to communicate and foster such great conversations with them. And another thing that I've learned is just the importance of being present. With a lot of the seniors that we work with, they're not always at the same, they have hearing difficulties, eyesight difficulties, mobility issues. And sometimes you're not always able to foster a really productive conversation, but that doesn't really matter. Like, there's this one senior that I'm thinking about in particular, and she doesn't really hear me very much when I talk to her. But still, like, when you sit beside her and you do the activities with her, like, it still makes such a big impact in her day. And she always says that she's so excited to come to the events, even though, in all honesty, like, we're not really doing much. Like, I remember there was a friendship bracelet making event, and I was just like helping her make the bracelet. Like, we weren't able to have so much of a conversation, but just having someone there, especially for a lot of these seniors who don't necessarily have that family support, or they've lost their loved ones, it means a lot to them. And so I've kind of taken that away in other areas of my life, like whether it's friends or personal situations, just the importance of being present and being there, regardless of when you don't know what to say or you don't have anything to say, just having that support, even non-verbally, I guess, is really important. And I would say those are like the main things that I've taken away from the program. I'm sure I'll elaborate in the question and answer period, but yeah.
Thank you, Sophie. You mentioned something to me last April. I think it was April, at the very last event for
Yes.
UC. And I want you to elaborate on that, because it's just stuck
Okay.
in my mind because it blew me away. You said this club had been the highlight of your degree.
It really was, because it wasn't even just about forming the relationships, it was also creating like that sense of community. Like, being able to find others who also had a passion for just kind of helping people and creating that support was so valuable. And I was able to bring my friends into the club, and some of my best friends were with us and on the executive team, and being able to work with them and find ways to kind of build my own relationships and build my relationships with the seniors through this program was really fantastic. And what I always loved about Good Links and our events is it always was, for lack of a better word, almost like a distraction from everyday life. Being able to go from, I have so many midterms, I have so many tests, I have so many assignments, to like going to these Good Links events and just focusing on the conversations you have with these seniors. It's just such a good break, and it's almost very grounding, because hearing their life stories and getting insight on all the experiences they lived and how they've gone through hardship and adversity, you kind of realize that these little things that you're going through don't really matter as much as you think they will. And so it's just kind of almost like a stress reliever. It was a relationship builder. Like I said at the very beginning, when you think you're going into these intergenerational relationships, you think that you're only helping them per se, or the other person, but really you get so much in return. And I think that really highlights that statement, and that sentiment is, I always came out feeling so much better and almost refreshed and rejuvenated, because I was able to have more of that grounding experience every month.
Wow, thank you. And I have to do a shout out to Sophie, because a lot of you know I was with Linkages Society of Alberta, and 2 years ago, they had to close their doors because they didn't have enough funding. And I didn't want to close down our program. So I created my own social enterprise called Good Links, and Sophie designed my logo. So I
Yes.
mean, it's the relationships. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Miguel, your turn. Let's hear from you.
Certainly. Yes, so good morning, everyone. My name is Miguel. It's a pleasure to be in your company here today. I guess before I get to everything, I'd say yes, the logo was very good, Sophie. We like that logo. But yeah, so similar to Sophie, I started with linkages in high school, and I had the privilege of being able to be involved with that program in high school. I think it was really awesome. I went to Bishop Carroll High School, and we went to a facility called Care West RC near Bishop Carroll, and then where I had the pleasure of meeting many individuals. And then as I entered university, I joined Good Links after it changed in name and everything. And I've been involved with Good Links. This is my second year now at the university. This year, I succeeded Sophie as the president of Good Links at U of C, and I've had the privilege of continuing getting to go to those intergenerational events and build those friendships now at U of C. I think for what it's meant to me and everything. Sophie wonderfully touched on this earlier, and I'll expand it. I think for me, it's about learning and how I'm able to learn from those around me through those intergenerational friendships I make, because I realize that our what we go through in life, our experiences, yes, they may have their differences, but they also have our similarities, and building these friendships make me feel more at peace with my life because I'm able to learn from those who have been in my shoes before. And similarly, I'm able to contribute to other people's lives from another generation by bringing in my new perspectives from my generation and my new experiences, and I can bring in how things have changed throughout the generations. And those intergenerational friendships make me understand how similar we are as people and how much we can learn from each other and grow from each other. And by learning from these amazing friendships, I'm able to grow as an individual myself. For example, back in high school, I had the privilege of meeting a gentleman named Mike, and he was a senior I volunteered with at Care West RC. And I realized how similar we were as people. We both loved hockey. We both loved nature, and getting to share those stories, getting to share my experiences with nature, getting to hear his experiences with hockey. It was really cool to be able to hear the different perspectives on life while realizing how similar life is. And I think for all of that, it's been such a meaningful part of my life. Like this Friday, I'll be going to Bow Center Housing Society for an intergenerational event with U of C, and I'm just like counting down the days because I haven't seen a lot of the individuals there since April, and it's very exciting to be able to get to see those friends I've made again. We're gonna have like a Halloween themed event, and I'm really excited to have our Halloween event, get to talk about Halloween and get to reconnect and relearn from those. So it's been such something I've really valued, and it means a lot to me, those intergenerational friendships I've made.
Thank you, Miguel. I had forgotten about Mike. So when you were matched up with Mike, and when he passed away, I don't know if you even know this. His wife wrote me a note saying how meaningful it was for him to be visited by you guys. And she appreciated it so much. He was in a care center, and every Friday after school, I think it was Fridays, right? Every Friday after school, the high school kids went, and you spent time with Mike. Tell us about your relationship with Stan now.
Oh yes. Yes. Stan he's a fellow who has a very strong sense of humor, but in a good way. He likes to bring in humor and likes to bring enthusiasm to the events, and I really appreciate that because in a very good way, you can never predict what Stan will say next. He'll always say a funny line or something clever, something unique. And it's always a lot of joy to be in his presence because he's bringing warmth to the events and a sense of enthusiasm and energy. And it radiates on everyone else.
Yeah, everybody loves Stan. Okay, Deanne, do you want to facilitate the Q&A time?
Sure, be happy to. I would invite everybody to unmic and ask a question, and you can turn on your camera or not, but just put up your hand or just speak out. It's very open conversation. And if you'd rather type your question into the chat, that's fine as well, and we'll have a look. I'll start us off. I have a couple of questions for Miguel and Sophie. The first question that came to mind is, how do you tell people your age or your peers what intergenerational relationships are like, or the club is like? How do you describe to your peers what you do and what you're part of? And maybe Sophie would like to go first.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the easiest way to describe it is almost like just having a bunch of grandparents, like, because there is that large age gap. And granted, not all the seniors we work with would be the same age as our grandparents, but it kind of is that similar relationship where we're dealing with people from a much different generation. And so that's how I typically would describe it to my peers. And usually, like, everyone loves to hear about this. They think it's just so sweet to be able to connect with, people from older generations. So it's quite well received as well.
Yes, and also to answer that question, I think very much what Sophie said speaks to me. Like, I tell people that I don't have grandparents here in Canada. So for me, it's very meaningful. And I tell people, like, this is my way to fill that void. And I'm able to simultaneously develop. I also tell people it's a friendship where you'll find someone who has lived a life in some way, shape, or form similar to you. And you find someone who's like you, just at a different generation.
And do they know the word intergenerational, or do you have to explain what it means? And can you attract them to come and join you, or come and see it for themselves if they have an interest? Do you find that recruiting is something you tend to feel comfortable doing if they're curious?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of describing intergenerational relationships, typically we do have to explain a little bit of what that means. But I know Miguel and I can both speak on it. Like, we have this thing at the University of Calgary where we try and recruit students during clubs week. And so we're actually able to do just that and use that as an opportunity to just set up a booth and try and attract students and give them a little bit of what we do. And usually that's when we would explain what exactly an intergenerational relationship is and try and bring people in as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as for people, I'd say some know what's intergenerational is, like intergenerational friendship. Some people don't. Some people are kind of between where they kind of sort of know, but they don't really understand. And I think we, especially at that Clubs Week, were able to explain it and highlight the benefits of intergenerational friendships.
Oh, great. Does anyone have sort of a following or follow-up question or a different question that comes to mind? Lily?
Yes. Thank you, Sophie and Miguel, for coming today and for sharing about your experience. I think it's really important to have youth voice in these sort of conversations. And so my question, and I can kind of put it in the chat there. One that's not there is you're kind of alluding to it now, right? The power of other young people speaking to their peers about the program. Um, do you find that you have opportunities to like co-design what this looks like? Do you feel like having a little bit of that leadership and that ability to create the environment is useful? Or I guess I would just love to know a little bit more about the youth role in these programs and kind of the follow-up questions just in the chat, talking about, what's exciting or valuable versus what's, kind of more challenging and awkward. I think there's a lot of keen folks in the room who, would love to have a stronger youth presence in their programs.
Yeah, to answer the first part of your question, which is kind of our role in the Good Links Club, one thing that we do is we actually design what we do at the events. And like Miguel said, they have a Halloween one planned. So I think one of the best parts about running the club is being able to design these events with our peers and have these meetings and trying to be able to think about, okay, like what would be a good event for the seniors, but also be good for the youth. So we've done, for example, trivia night where we try and pick a generation that both the youth would know and the seniors would know as well. Or we do events that are suited to the time of year. So we always do holiday events, we do Easter events. And so that's always really exciting for them as well. And I think that's great because it allows each event to be different and unique. So always, we're excited to see them and the seniors are excited to see us, but it adds something different to each event. So that's really great about that as well. And then for your second question, what sounds exciting or valuable versus challenging or awkward? That's when I would actually have to think about a little bit. I think, like I said earlier, what's very exciting about the programs is forming those connections and being able to work with people across generations and do that alongside your peers. And again, what's so valuable is witnessing the power of connection and just presence with the people that you work with. And I think that's so special and unique to this program. And just really showing that you can connect with anybody regardless of who they may be, and that's something you can take away. What sounds challenging or awkward? Honestly, I haven't encountered too many things that would make it awkward or challenging. I think one thing that I've encountered that might make it a bit hard to promote is I've always noticed that when I talk about working with seniors, people always say like, "Oh, high school seniors," or university seniors, which I know it sounds kind of silly, but I remember that was a big thing in my high school program where a lot of people, when I explained to them what I did, they're like, oh, yeah, I didn't join that because I thought I was working with high school seniors. So I think sometimes you have to be careful of the language you use when you talk about these things. And also just, talking about these relationships as being a connection and experience and uplifting thing for both sides. And I think that's more of the challenging pieces is you have to make sure that you're communicating what we do properly so that way the message really gets across.
Miguel, do you want to? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for the question. So I think for the first half of the question, what I could say, which is also kind of similar, is it's for us sometimes with the youth, it's kind of harder to get people in, but I notice those who come to Good Links and those who are in really want to be there. They really love it. They bring a lot of perspective. They're very active. They're very engaged. Like they want to be there and they really love being there. So like we had our welcome event this past Friday at U of C, and the students had a great time. We planned on finishing at 8 p.m. and a lot of us left at 8:45 p.m. because we were talking about the things we want to do and just talking about the year ahead. And even at like Bow Center Housing Society where we volunteer, the events end at 8 p.m. but then they end up going so over time because there's for those who want to be there, there's that strong sense of enthusiasm and passion for what they're doing. They really find it meaningful. As for the second part of the question, I think the exciting part, it's the friendships. I think it's that a lot of people get excited when they hear, hey, we can actually make cool friendships with people and get to know people who can be similar to us or not similar, and we can grow from them. I think one of the challenging parts sometimes is, telling people that when you're volunteering with a different generation, especially, you sometimes have to be more patient or more understanding of our differences because we have differences sometimes between generations. So I think it's explaining to people that you have to be patient. For example, this past Friday at the welcome event, we had the privilege of having Betty there, and she like explained sensitivity training for us and what it's like to be from a different generation, what it may be like, as you age to have compromised eyesight or compromised hearing. And I think sometimes that can be challenging to explain to others and to build a sense of understanding for. But Betty did a wonderful job of explaining it through her sensitivity training. So, yeah.
Right. Thank
And
you. Lily, did you have a follow-up question or did that answer your question? Oh, good. Okay.
and
Grace?
can I just jump in for a second?
Sure,
Because
sure.
Lily, you asked about the student leadership and how their role and how much they're involved in the design. I'm just there as support. At the U of C club, they do all the work. I support them and attend a lot of the events. And in the high school clubs, I'm there as support, but it's the teachers that actually help the leadership team. I train the leadership team and then I step back and support them. So hopefully that helps too. Sorry, Diane.
Nope, but thank you for that. Grace had a question sort of more on the logistical side of managing the club. Is it supported by the teachers, the administration? How do you get it up and going and then keep it going? And maybe talk a little bit about the logistics of setting it up and managing it, and whether or not funding is something that you also need or to keep it strong, or how exactly do you run the club?
Yeah, so with the university chapter, when I was president, I was kind of just taking over how they did it before. So with the chapter, they work directly with one senior home, and like Miguel was mentioning, it's the Bow Center Housing Society is what we work with. And so we set up that club or university club with the student union, and then we do whatever they require to maintain that. So that's usually attending certain events or, you know, insurance stuff, things like that. And then from there, sorry, there was a second part to your question as well about the logistics.
Oh, the logistics, I've just keeping it running. So what kind of work do you have to do? You know, I don't know if it's every week or if it's low maintenance, or what kind of administration work do you have to do to keep the club running?
Yeah. So we have our monthly events. I think in terms of administration stuff, it's not too much. I know when I was running it, I would hold 2 general meetings each semester where we would talk about what we were going to do for the events. And then from there, we'd schedule out emails. We would have some people apply for food and drink funding if we needed. So a lot of that fundraising that we require, because that's what I forgot. That's what you were mentioning previously was the fundraising. The student union that we work with can supply funding if need be. Fortunately, we also do have some funding from the Linkages organization. Before they closed down, they transferred some leftover money they had to us. In terms of just generally, if someone was interested in starting a club and they're worried about fundraising, you can do bake sales or other types of fundraising like raffles that I've seen around the university, just for your information. And in terms of being sponsored by a teacher, which I can see in the chat here, I think that would be more so a high school club. I can't speak on that. Maybe Betty can or Miguel, but yeah.
Thanks.
I guess, yeah, so Sophie, I think, answered the question very well there. I'll just add a few things. Yeah, so for us, we have an executive team at U of C where we can trust the leadership of various students to fulfill different tasks. So like we have a student, his name is Ali. He's our VP of marketing, and he's very good at photography and social media posts and whatnot. And so having that team together has allowed us to allow the programs to run and allow things to occur. Yeah, and then we have obviously the support of all the students who come to the events every week to help keep us going.
And how many students exactly? And if you had enough interest, could you expand to other residences? Is there a sign up list and a waiting list for more involvement, or how are you finding participation?
I think it's definitely dependent on like where we are in the semester. That definitely answers it a lot, because during like the crazy periods of time, unfortunately, it is a little harder to get students out. I think for us, we would probably stick to the one residence that we go to, but we usually have a consistent number of some students, and then we have a few students who will come, to less events, but they'll still come out to the events. So yeah, we do have enough of a team though that's consistent that allows us to go to the same like residents every week, every event.
Is there anything to add, Sophie, on that?
Yeah, I think Miguel covered it all. It's definitely very dependent on the amount of students we get. I would say we usually have around 20, and then sometimes we have higher, sometimes we have lower than that, if I remember correctly. Um, yeah, in terms of expanding to another residence, that's definitely possible. That isn't really something that I was looking into while I was president. But yeah, that's a good point. Maybe Miguel or the presidents can look at that in the future.
And how many older adults would participate if you have 20 students? What would be the ratio?
It's usually pretty good. We usually have around 15 seniors. I don't know the numbers exactly, but they are very consistent. We almost always get the same seniors every week, and the ratio is quite good. For most events, we have like a 1-to-1 ratio in terms of the students and seniors. Sometimes we have a little bit more students, maybe a couple, but it's usually a pretty good ratio.
And just looking
Okay.
at the chat here, there was is there an interest in collaborating with other events or other groups? Do you see overlap to maybe bolster numbers or bolster interest or um, different themes and so that there's commonality with others?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think being a university club, the best thing we would do would be to collaborate with other clubs that have a similar mission to us. I think at UC, there isn't anything that's similar, at least when I was there. In terms of working with other organizations outside of Good Links, um, I hadn't looked into that, but I'm sure like I think there was someone on this team who was a co-founder of a generational organization as well. And so that's a good thing to keep in mind and maybe working with them. And maybe you could even host like national like intergenerational events kind of like this one where you have one in Calgary at a retirement home and you can collaborate with an organization, in Ontario and be able to do that as well.
That's what
Yeah.
that's what we're hoping as well. We're working on that.
Great.
Thank you. Those are great suggestions. And it's nice to just get that kind of feedback because we know you're out there and we're trying to grow that message and grow the opportunities across the country for more connections. And so we could easily collaborate, but also ask if it was a pilot that we could replicate elsewhere as well and get your ideas and your success out there as well. So yeah. Miguel, is there anything you'd like to add to those last few points?
Yeah, so I think definitely collaboration with clubs is the biggest one. Like for me, the biggest thing I've been asking is those in who run social medias of other clubs. Like I'm part of the debate club, so I've asked like our social media director, could you please like share the message with the social media, try to get that word out. So I definitely say we're like Sophie mentioned, like working with other clubs is the best way for us as a campus club to spread the word to other students and build interest and so on and so forth. We haven't, like also Sophie mentioned, we haven't collaborated with other organizations, but I could definitely see that being a potential if everything works out. Why not, get to share perspectives with students, maybe with seniors, maybe with those between being the age of being, say, like a university student and part of the being a senior. There's still a huge gap in age. I definitely think there's opportunities to bring perspectives from every age group.
That's really great points. And we encourage you to do that as much as your time allows and your experience allows, because word of mouth, but I think we would all agree that in-person connecting, whether you're, a small child and somebody in the workforce or university student and an older adult, those connections through the generations are so important. And so the more we spread the word and I think involve people to see it firsthand, the more this will be top of mind and people will reach out and get involved and share the benefits of intergenerational relationships.
Exactly, I agree.
Any other questions? I'm looking at the chat here. I'm not
Betty
sure.
has her
Yeah.
hand up.
Okay, good. Please go.
Okay, I noticed somebody asked how many people live in the care home. It's actually not a care home. They go to an apartment building, an affordable living apartment building for people, older adults with fixed income. And so they live there independently. They all have their own apartments. And also, Razbina, I noticed that you've asked, talking about collaborating at events. And you're in Calgary, so I have a few clubs around the city. The others are high school clubs. And so why don't you email me, and maybe I can help you either start a club or collaborate with one of our others.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you, Betty. Anybody else? Can we help answer questions or expand on Sophie and Miguel's experience?
Michael Kim had one in the chat there.
Thank you. Michael, let me go. Oh, I sort of made my way through that one. I don't know if it answered your questions completely. Michael, do you have any follow-up you would like?
Yeah, please. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Sorry, yeah, I'm Michael Kim, coming from the town of Okotoks. I'm the community resource specialist here, and I'm looking to kind of bring in some of the intergenerational programming into the town of Okotoks. I'm currently looking at youth volunteer programs where they can kind of be seen as uh, more so an asset to the community rather than kids just that are roaming around, that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I kind of came across is that there are very significant cultural differences, not only the generational ones and the sensitivities that you folks mentioned, but cultural differences between the incoming generations and new demographics of people that are in Okotoks as well. So Sophie and Miguel, from your personal experiences, how have you kind of dealt with these cultural differences along with the generational differences that you're seeing when you're interacting with people, and some of the struggles maybe that you've seen, I guess, your clubs or your members kind of experience as they're kind of going through these? If you wouldn't mind sharing that, that'd be really great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the first things when addressing cultural differences is really building a diverse team that's representative of the population that you'll most likely be working with. So when I was president, I did try and make an effort to grab people from different majors, different cultures, background, ages, as much as I could, and whoever was interested. And I think that's really important because by having, diverse perspectives, you're able to address a diverse population as well, and kind of take into account those cultural differences that you may not think of unless you had people who've experienced those things. And then I think when dealing with it in the actual events, it's important that when you're promoting these events and grabbing students and doing the orientation like Miguel was talking about previously, is not only having that sensitivity towards what the elders go through, but also have an understanding that you must be open-minded when you approach each connection or each relationship that you're planning on building. And so having that mindset or that approach going into it helps ensure that people like, I guess for lack of a better word, maybe stereotype certain cultures or maybe look down upon how people live their lives. And also trying to really emphasize that when you're recruiting people, I find that that also brings in the people who also take that approach to their conversations as well.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
for your, oh, sorry. Thank you for your question, Michael. So yes, I think another thing that we've also brought in, and Sophie did this as president and whatnot, is it's a strong sense of respect when we go to our events. We want to bring in a community and culture of respect, because when you bring a culture of respect, you'll understand people's cultural differences and differences between one another. And I think one way that like we do this is we really push the idea of combating ageism and overcoming ageism, because when we combat ageism, we are bringing in respect to our events because we're respecting other generations. And when we come with a community of respect, we'll respect the differences between one another. So at our welcome event this past Friday, Betty actually talked about ageism and taught what ageism is to all the interested students at the event. And so by doing so, we're able to bring a community and culture of respect for one another and for our differences.
So then does each member of the intergenerational club, I guess, go through certain level of training then prior to engaging with elders in the community?
Yes. So like I think I mentioned this a couple questions ago.
Yeah.
When Betty was at our event on Friday, she
Yeah.
demonstrated a sensitivity training where we can understand, what it's like to age and whatnot, and what it's like to have compromised vision or hearing. So I think that's more of the training. And then there's that personal training of understanding what to expect when you go on the first time, and
Right.
understand that we have generational differences and to understand those differences.
Oh, so the club members kind of get oriented and then they kind of get additional training as it kind of organically arises kind of situation then?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
We have like our welcome event where everyone gets that
Okay.
original training. And then
Yeah.
as they go through the events every time on Fridays when they're there, you kind of, it's like you understand how to, it's kind of like organic, like you mentioned. Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. Yeah, I just wanted to see how that structure kind of played out for the club. So thank you so much for sharing. That really helps.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can I jump in for a second, Michael?
Yeah.
For my programs, I do sensitivity training with all of the students before they ever meet the older adults in the programs. And then if it seems appropriate, like this Friday, I'm going to an event, not an event, but to another program. Teachers are on strike here, so of course we can't have programs, but I'm going to be going and doing sensitivity training with the older adults in that high school club. And I'll be spending an hour with them to do the same thing, exactly what Miguel was talking about, but teaching them about youth, respect, ageism, expectations, like all that. So we actually have them go through training.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, if it's all right, I might reach out to you to kind of pick your brain about what that looks like. As I'm
Yeah.
kind of trying to design a program where youth are actually engaging with seniors a little bit more here. So that'd be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, email me and we can have a conversation.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I think Betty has a whole lot of resources to share. I do reach out to her directly for sensitivity training, but just some great insight on how to prepare the participants. There was a question about, is there sensitivity training for the older adults, and how they actually engage with youth. And so I think Betty covers all that as well. And then Betty, there was a question about just a bit more elaboration on the school clubs that
Oh,
you've.
okay, we don't have much time left, so I'm just gonna
Okay.
put it in a nutshell. Our high school clubs are very similar to the university club, but they are supported by, like, if you want to start a high school club, contact a teacher in a high school and, well, actually contact me, I can walk you through the process. But you need a contact person at the high school that is going to really work with you. And then find, like we have a high school club at a care center. We have another one at a church that's a community church, and we have another one at a community center. So you know what, yeah, I don't have enough time to talk about it, but if you want to email me, I can discuss that with you more. Lily, I think your hand's up.
Yeah, I just had a question. It's kind of a little bit more broad. So, I mean, Sophie and Miguel, feel free to answer, but if there's other folks in the room, I had a question from one of the partners that I'm working with. They have a large number of newcomer youth who go to a senior active living center to do board games and mingle. And they're wanting to have more older adults engage in that program. As it looks right now, there's, a high number of youth who come every week. They bring their parents sometimes, they bring their friends and siblings. And then, we're just finding that the attendance from older adults there was a little bit lower. So a senior active living center, so it's they sign up for different classes. There's service navigation there for older adults. It's not a residence, no one lives there, but it is like a community center geared for 55 plus. So I'm just kind of putting the general question out. How might we better engage older adults to, have more of a balanced group? I have my own assumptions on how we can do it going forward, but I'd love to hear what other folks think.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know you were talking more about the senior active living. How we did it at our club is because it was a residence. There was a senior that we worked directly with, and she would always be the one who was putting out the newsletters and telling everybody. But I think honestly, my takeaway from that is the most important thing to get more seniors is word of mouth. So we've had a consistent amount of people come, but we've also had a few more as the years have gone on. And I've noticed that's just because the seniors love it every time they come, so they become really consistent. And then more and more seniors join as they hear from word of mouth, like Stan, as we were talking about earlier, is a really good person for that. He'll like to spread the news to, anyone who's walking into the room. Oh, you should come join us. This is really great. And it's really just about getting them in the door. And then once they're there, they usually have a great time and they'll come back again and again. If you want an incentive, sometimes we have food, which does help. And that helps bring some of the seniors in. And I know there's actually a couple who I think initially came for the food, but ends up staying for the event and they come back every month. So I think that's a good one as well.
I think I'll also add another thing that works very well is sometimes we're all together as one big team. And the reason why that works well is because for me as a student, like we make it in a way that's like it's not just a student with a senior, because I also appreciate the friendships I'm able to build with fellow students around my age, right? Just beyond the intergenerational friendships. I've made good friends out of going to good links. And similarly, we try to do it where we're together as a group sometimes, or it's groups of twos, groups of threes, because for a lot of the seniors, similarly, they're able to build friends with the people that they're, in Bowness, in the Bow Center Housing Society, they're able to build friends with those people, just how I as a student am able to. So it's kind of encouraging friendships also within your own generation. That helps bring more people because they say their friend, like Sophie mentioned about word of mouth, the word of mouth will spread and your friends will be coming, so you'll want to go too.
Thank you, everyone. Those are great questions, great insight. I really loved where this Q&A sort of started and continued, and the last words there were really encouraging for people who are interested in getting more involved and maybe establishing something like this. And we can connect offline here and continue the conversations and supply resources. So we're here to share. But Betty, do you want to take it from here?
Sure. We only have a few minutes left, but Stephanie, can you put the link for the feedback form in the chat box, please? So
Yeah,
I'm
let me do
gonna,
that.
in a couple of minutes, well, as soon as Stephanie puts the link in the chat box, please click on that and I think it'll just take 2 or 3 minutes. We just want your feedback because we always want to improve what we're doing in these events. So I'm going to give you a few minutes. When you're done, don't go away because I'm going to tell you about what's exciting in November. Okay, so please click on that link. Go. Stephanie, would you please put up the last slide?
Can you see the
Okay,
slide you want, Betty?
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
perfect.
Okay, as you are just finishing up the feedback form, thanks for doing that. Our next event, so for those of you who are new to our community of practice, our events are always on a Tuesday morning and always from 10:30 to 12. Our next one is Tuesday, November 18th, and I don't think you're going to want to miss this one. Our intergenerational community of practice is collaborating with the elder abuse group on CORE, and Megan from that group, she and I collaborated last spring, and she works with Kirby Center here in Calgary, and me with Good Links, we collaborated with a program that I help run with a school, a junior high school, and a retirement center. And our project was about in preparation for World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And so we're going to tell you about our project next month. And the title is Intergenerational Approaches in Preventing Family Violence. Okay. So if you're at all interested in that, please, I'll send you a link. I'll send a follow-up email tomorrow, and I'll put the link in there so that you can register, because I think it'll be very interesting, because intergenerational approaches. I heard somebody say this once, show me a problem, I'll show you an intergenerational approach for that problem. And so that's next month, and hope to see you then. And also, don't forget, go to CORE, either CORE National, just Google CORE Alberta, CORE National, or yeah, CORE BC doesn't have a group, but come and join our group. Okay, we'll be happy to see you. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Miguel. You spent a whole hour and a half with us. That was amazing. I had other stuff planned in case there weren't many questions. Well, I didn't have to plan anything because you guys were so amazing, and everybody was interested in what you shared. Thank you. I admire you guys. Great. Okay. Thank you, and see you in November. And the team, could you stay on for a brief debrief? Thanks. Miguel and Sophie, if you want to stay on, you can.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh.